Have you ever felt like your birthday might mean something more than just a number on a calendar, not in a superstitious way, but in a way that whispers of something deeper, like a message from time itself? If you've ever wondered why certain parts of the year make you feel more alive, more quiet, or more reflective, then maybe the moment you were born isn't just when your life began, but when a specific energy met your soul. In this video, we'll explore Carl Jung's extraordinary idea that the month you were born into carries symbolic meaning, tied to ancient archetypes that might shape your emotions, your habits, and even your life's direction. And in part 3, you'll hear how just one month, like March or November, might quietly hold the key to understanding your recurring emotional patterns and how to work with them instead of fighting them. I remember someone telling me, "I was born in September, and my whole life feels like trying to make sense of things, like I was born to bring order to chaos." It stuck with me, and as I listened to their story, I realized they weren't alone. Maybe you felt something like that too, a quiet pull, a recurring pattern, or an inner role you seem to always step into. If you see yourself in what I'm about to share, drop a comment that simply says, "I feel this." Take a breath, and let's begin this journey inward, through the 12 symbolic gates of the calendar, to meet the archetype that may have been with you all along. What if the month you were born wasn't just a coincidence? What if it carried a deeper rhythm, a kind of symbolic fingerprint left on your soul the moment you arrived in this world? You see, in our fast-paced world, it is easy to dismiss something like a birth month as irrelevant, or just another box to check on a form. But Carl Jung, the great Swiss psychologist, believed time wasn't neutral. It had texture, tone, energy. To Jung, the calendar wasn't just a way to mark the passing of days. It was a symbolic language, and each month spoke in archetypes, patterns older than memory, yet somehow alive in all of us. Now, this isn't about horoscopes or fortune-telling. This is about psychology, the kind that looks inward, that asks what ancient parts of the human psyche are quietly guiding us. Because what if the month you were born in actually mirrored something within you? Not a destiny, but a direction. Not a rule, but a rhythm. Think about it for a second. January, cold, still, full of reflection. July, warm, radiant, emotional. November, quiet, mysterious, charged with transformation. These aren't just climate patterns, they carry emotional tones, and we, born into those tones, may carry echoes of them long after the day we took our first breath. Jung believed we are shaped not just by what happens to us, but by the patterns we unconsciously live out, the roles we gravitate toward, the emotions that keep returning, the inner battles we repeat without even knowing why. And sometimes the month we were born in offers a hidden key, a whisper, a mirror, not to limit us, but to reveal us, to help us name the unnamed energies we carry, to bring light to the parts of us that feel familiar but unspoken, to show us that even time itself has a soul. So in this journey, we're not just going to list months and assign traits. We're going to feel into what each month represents symbolically, and how it might reflect the archetypal energy that lives within you. Maybe you were born in the quiet of February and carry the spark of the visionary. Maybe your story began in May, with the steady rhythm of the builder, or maybe you arrived with December's light, carrying the hope of the sage. You may recognize yourself. You may recognize someone you love, and you might begin to see that this isn't about labeling, it's about remembering. Remembering that you're not random, that your soul may have chosen a particular moment for a reason, that the date on your birth certificate might just be a doorway. So take your time as we walk through it, month by month. Not to tell you who you are, but to reflect what might already be true and waiting to be named. If you're ready, take a breath, and let's begin. Have you ever had that strange feeling, like your life keeps repeating a certain theme? Maybe you always end up in the role of the caretaker, or the challenger, or the peacemaker. Maybe it's not your job title, or even your personality on paper, but something deeper, more constant, like a role your soul keeps playing again and again. Carl Jung had a name for that. He called it an archetype. To Jung, archetypes are ancient, symbolic roles embedded deep within the human psyche. They're not just characters from myths, they're energies, patterns, emotional blueprints that live in all of us. The mother, the rebel, the sage, the seeker, the lover, the builder. These aren't labels, they're mirrors, reflecting parts of ourselves that may have gone unnamed, but never unfelt. Jung believed that we don't just live out these patterns because of our upbringing, but because they're woven into the fabric of our collective unconscious, the shared psychological inheritance of humanity. And here's where it gets even more fascinating. He believed that time itself, yes, even the calendar, mirrors these archetypes too, that the seasons, the months, carry energies of their own. That nature doesn't just change visually, but emotionally, spiritually. Think of the cold silence of January, the fiery burst of April, the introspective fog of November. Each of these moments in time has a psychological texture, a kind of inner weather that matches what's happening outside, and Jung noticed something powerful. The month you were born into may align you with the tone of that moment in time, not by fate but by resonance. He didn't mean that everyone born in July is emotional, or that every October soul is an artist, but he believed that our birth month is a kind of symbolic imprint, an invitation to explore a specific archetype more deeply. It doesn't define you, it doesn't predict your life. It opens a door. And depending on how you walk through it, that archetype can become either your gift or your shadow. For example, someone born in February might carry the energy of the visionary, the one who dreams beyond what is. But that same energy, if not grounded, can become isolation, restlessness, a sense of never quite belonging. Someone born in September might be gifted with clarity and organization, the analyst, but they may also wrestle with perfectionism, or the fear of getting it wrong. Each archetype has both light and shadow, both wisdom and wound, and understanding the symbolic season you were born into gives you a language for what you've always felt, but maybe never named. So no, this isn't astrology, this isn't magic, this is about meaning, about reflection. It's about listening to what the world was whispering the day you entered it, because that moment, the light, the weather, the rhythm of the earth, it marked the beginning of your story. And Jung believed that the more we understand the symbolic landscape we were born into, the more consciously we can shape the story we're here to live. So when we say your birth month might hold the key to your soul, we're not talking about prediction. We're talking about remembrance. Remembering the energy you were born under, the patterns you've carried. The parts of you that feel familiar, not because you chose them, but because they were always there. And if that idea resonates, then what you'll hear in the coming parts, month by month, archetype by archetype, might not just make you feel seen. It might help you understand why you feel what you feel, why you act how you act, and how to bring your soul into alignment with the deeper rhythm it's always followed. Are you ready to walk through the calendar as you've never seen it before? Then meet me in the next part, where we begin with January, February and March. Let's see what they might reflect. Back to you. Have you ever noticed how winter changes everything? The way sound feels heavier in the cold, how silence isn't just quiet but full, how people slow down, as if the world itself is asking us to pause. Carl Jung believed that winter carries the energy of reflection, stillness, and inner depth. And if you were born in the months of January, February, or March, you may carry echoes of those same energies deep inside you, even if life has pulled you in other directions. Let's begin with January. January isn't just the first month, it's the elder's breath, the deep inhale before anything begins. The earth is frozen, the skies are grey, but underneath that stillness, something ancient is listening. Jung associated January with the sage or the elder, the archetype that carries wisdom, patience, and perspective. If you were born in January, you might have always felt a little older than your age, not in years, but in soul. Maybe you notice things others miss. Maybe people come to you for advice, even when you don't ask for it. There's a quiet strength in you, a groundedness, a deep belief in long-term vision, even when things around you are falling apart. But here's the shadow. The sage can become too serious, too cautious, too detached. You might struggle to stay connected to joy, or feel guilty for resting, for playing, for simply being. You might carry the weight of being the responsible one, even when no one asked you to. So your invitation is this: let your wisdom guide you, but not define you. Even the sage needs moments of laughter, spontaneity, and softness, because wisdom isn't just knowing, it's also living. Now, February. If January is the still breath, February is the stirring dream. The snow still falls, but underneath, the seeds begin to wake. There's a quiet electricity, the sense that something is coming. Jung saw February as the home of the visionary, or the revolutionary. If you were born in February, chances are you've never fit in perfectly anywhere, and that might have been both your wound and your gift. You see the world differently. Maybe you've always questioned the way things are. Maybe you feel ideas before you have words for them. Maybe you believe in possibilities that others find too far. You carry the spark of innovation, of future thinking, and your heart beats to a rhythm that isn't always understood. But here's your challenge. Vision without grounding becomes loneliness. You might feel isolated, like no one truly gets you. You might have so many ideas that none of them become real. You might struggle with everyday routines because your mind lives 5 years ahead. So the invitation for you? Let your visions touch the ground. Turn one idea into a small action. Speak your dreams out loud, not to be perfect, but to be present. You don't need to be normal, but you do need to be connected. That's how revolutions begin, not in theory, but in shared breath. Now, let's talk about March. March is the threshold, the turning point. It's not winter, but not quite spring. It's the awakening. The snow melts, the light returns. Life starts whispering again. And Jung associated March with the reborn, or the awakener. If you were born in March, you might feel everything so deeply, sometimes too deeply. Your intuition is strong. Your inner world is rich, layered, poetic. You don't just feel emotions, you swim in them, and that's your power. You are resilient, not because you never fall, but because you always rise. Like the earth in March, you bloom again and again. But your shadow, you can drown in your own depth. You might lose yourself in emotions, or become overwhelmed by the very sensitivity that makes you special. You might have trouble setting boundaries, or feel like you're carrying too much of the world. So your lesson: let your inner spring have a container. Find ways to anchor yourself, breathe, ground, because your emotional sensitivity is a gift, but only when it's balanced. The reborn isn't fragile. The reborn is transformative. You are the one who helps others remember life again after their own winters. So whether you were born in January, February, or March, you carry the energy of winter, of endings, beginnings, and deep inner vision. But remember, this isn't a box, it's a mirror, a way to see yourself more clearly, to honor your emotional texture, to work with your energy instead of against it. Because maybe the story of your life has always been echoing the season you were born into, quiet, powerful, profound, and now that you see it, what will you do with it? If any of this felt familiar, if you saw yourself in these winter archetypes, drop a comment with your birth month. Let's see how many elders, visionaries, and reborn souls are walking among us. And when you're ready, we'll step into the next season, spring, where the warrior rises, the builder creates, and the seeker begins to ask, What more is out there? Spring doesn't just change the outside world, it stirs something inside of us too. The air shifts, the light sharpens, life begins to move again. And if you were born in April, May, or June, you might carry the energy of beginnings, boldness, or curiosity that just doesn't quit. Let's begin with April. April arrives with a bang. The earth stretches, the trees shout green, the wind no longer whispers, it declares. Carl Jung linked this month to the archetype of the warrior or the initiator. If you were born in April, chances are you've never been one to sit on the sidelines. You act, you move, you fight, not always with fists but with passion. There's fire in your presence even when you're silent. You start things, you challenge the stale, you breathe urgency into everything you touch. But like every archetype, the warrior has a shadow. You might act too quickly, burn out too fast, mistake movement for direction, and sometimes you carry more anger than you know what to do with. Not always rage, but that quiet frustration of a soul that knows things could be better. So your growth begins with this. Learn to pause before you push. Learn that stillness is not weakness, because the strongest warriors are the ones who know when not to fight. Your fire is sacred, but only when it's aimed with heart. Now May. Where April is ignition, May is embodiment. The earth is lush. Flowers bloom fully. There's steadiness in the breeze. Jung saw May as the month of the builder, or the lover of simplicity. If you were born in May, there's likely a part of you that craves peace, not the kind that hides from life, but the kind that builds it. You're probably drawn to things that grow slowly, gardens, relationships, routines. You might not rush, but once you begin, you don't stop. You bring stability, beauty, and loyalty to everything you care about. People trust you, not because you talk big, but because you show up. But the shadow of the builder? You may resist change, hold too tightly to comfort. Let fear of loss keep you from stepping forward. You might confuse routine with safety and avoid anything that shakes the ground beneath you. But here's the truth. Even beauty must evolve, even builders must redesign. Your foundation is strong, but don't let it become a cage. Let love move you, let stillness breathe, let simplicity remain, but not shrink you. Because your quiet strength, it's not just grounding, it's magnetic. Now June, the midpoint of the year, the turning mirror. The light is bright, the days are long, and something in the air feels curious. Jung associated June with the seeker, or the mediator. If you were born in June, chances are you've always been looking, not just for facts or places, but for meaning. You ask questions that others don't. You connect ideas that seem unrelated. You bridge people, thoughts, and emotions like an invisible thread. There's a lightness in you, playful, charming, adaptable. But behind the smiles is a depth, a yearning for truth, and that's your magic, but also your struggle. You may find it hard to choose. You want everything, to know, to feel, to explore. You might scatter your energy, jump from project to project, person to person, and wonder why you still feel unfulfilled. You want to understand everyone, but sometimes forget to understand yourself. So, your lesson. Let your mind wander, but let your heart land. Stay curious, but also stay centered, because when the seeker finds their center, they don't just search for truth. They become it. April, May, June. The months of rising, of risk and renewal, the warrior's fire, the builder's roots, the seeker's questions. If you were born in spring, you carry the season's promise, the courage to start again. But remember, even boldness needs wisdom. Even simplicity must evolve. Even seekers must rest. Spring is not about getting it right. It's about beginning with heart. And that is more than enough. If you saw a part of yourself in these archetypes, share your month in the comments, or tag someone born in this season who reflects this energy. In the next part, we step into the heart of summer, where the nurturer and the leader rise, and where emotional warmth meets inner sovereignty. Ready? There's something about summer that makes people feel more alive. Maybe it's the sun, maybe it's the way time slows down, maybe it's how memories feel sharper in the heat. But if you were born in July or August, you might carry the emotional tone of summer within you, not just in your body but in your soul. Let's begin with July. July is warm, not just in temperature, but in heart. It's the month of family reunions, slow sunsets, deep conversations that happen under stars. Carl Jung saw July as the home of the nurturer, or the protector. If you were born in July, you likely carry a deep emotional intelligence. You feel the moods in a room before anyone speaks. You sense pain before it's visible. You care, not because you're told to, but because it's how you're wired. You may be the emotional center of your relationships, the one people call at 2 a.m., the one who holds space, who remembers birthdays, who cries when others can't. But here's the shadow. You might give until there's nothing left. You might neglect yourself in the name of caring. You might suppress your needs to keep the peace. And sometimes you confuse love with self-erasure. Your growth begins when you realize this. Your sensitivity is not a weakness, it's a compass, but it needs to point inward too. Protect yourself as fiercely as you protect others, because your love is powerful, but only when it includes you. Now August. Where July is the heart, August is the flame. It's the time of full expression, big birthdays, bold decisions, golden light. Jung associated August with the archetype of the leader or the sovereign. If you were born in August, there's a natural presence about you. You may not try to lead, but others still follow. You speak with clarity, you move with vision, and even when you're quiet, people feel your influence. You don't just want success, you want impact. But the sovereign walks a fine line. Pride can grow quietly. Control can sneak in disguised as standards. And isolation? It hides in plain sight when you're always the one in charge. You might carry the burden of needing to appear strong, even when you're exhausted. You might crave support, but not know how to ask for it. So here's your reminder. True leadership is not dominance, it's resonance. You lead best when you listen first. You inspire when you allow vulnerability to walk beside strength. Your power isn't in being above others. It's in lifting others while standing fully in your light. July, August, the heart of summer, the season of warmth and boldness. Whether you carry the nurturer's quiet devotion or the leader's radiant clarity, your energy moves others, heals others, guides others. But don't forget, summer also invites rest. Even the sun sets, even the strongest hearts need time to refill. So, if this part of the journey spoke to you, drop your birth month in the comments. Let us know how these archetypes feel in your life. And in the next part, we'll move into autumn, where structure meets softness and the perfectionist meets the peacemaker. Autumn doesn't arrive loudly. It slips in quietly. One day the air feels different. A breeze carries a memory. A tree turns golden and something in you softens. If you were born in September or October, you may carry the emotional texture of this season, the urge to understand, to organize, to balance. Let's begin with September. September is the month of preparation, of harvest, of bringing order to what was once wild. Carl Jung connected September with the archetype of the analyst or the perfectionist. If you were born in this month, you might feel most alive when things make sense. You seek patterns, you look for meaning in details, and when others see noise, you see structure. You may have been called smart from a young age, not just because of grades, but because of how your mind works. Clear, focused, thoughtful. But with that brilliance comes a burden. You might become overly critical, especially of yourself. You might fear mistakes, even small ones. You might organize everything outside to avoid the chaos inside. And sometimes, in your pursuit of perfection, you forget that being human is messy. So here's your lesson. Let go of the need to control everything. The beauty of autumn is not in perfect symmetry, it's in the way things fall, naturally, unpredictably. You are not here to fix everything, you are here to feel it too. Let your mind guide you, but let your heart have a say. Now October. Where September brings structure, October brings balance. The world is painted in gold and red. There's harmony in the air, and a quiet kind of beauty that asks nothing from you but presence. Jung saw October as the home of the diplomat, or the artist. If you were born in October, you likely have a natural sensitivity to people, beauty, and energy. You're the one who smooths tensions, who brings people together, who sees both sides before choosing one. You may also have an aesthetic soul, drawn to colors, music, spaces that feel just right. Your gift is in creating connection between people, ideas, and emotions. But here's the shadow. You might avoid conflict, even when it matters. You might trade authenticity for peace. You might say yes to keep things smooth, while your soul quietly says no. You might believe that keeping the peace means keeping yourself quiet, but true harmony isn't passive. It's courageous. It speaks when it's scared. It disagrees without dividing. It chooses presence over performance. So, your invitation. Don't fear the waves. You were made to navigate them. Your gentleness is strength, and your ability to see beauty. It's not just decoration, it's healing. September, October, the thinkers, the balancers, the ones who bring order to chaos and grace to difficulty. If you were born in these months, you might wrestle with high standards or fear of rocking the boat. But remember, your clarity is a gift, and so is your compassion. And when you let both walk together, you become the bridge the world didn't know it needed. If you saw a piece of yourself here, leave a comment with your month, or tag someone who's helped bring peace or insight into your life. In the next part, we'll step into the shadowy beauty of November and December, where things don't just end, they transform. There's something about late autumn and early winter that makes you turn inward. The light fades faster, the days grow quieter, and in that stillness, something ancient stirs. If you were born in November or December, you may carry the emotional signature of this season. The call to go deeper, to seek truth, to make meaning even in the dark. Let's begin with November. November doesn't explain itself. It whispers, it hides, it asks you to look again. Carl Jung saw this month as the realm of the alchemist, or the deep transformer. If you were born in November, chances are you've never been satisfied with surface answers. You want to know what lies beneath people's words, beneath your own emotions, beneath the masks the world wears. You might be intuitive, intense, deeply spiritual, even if you've never called yourself that. Transformation doesn't scare you. It calls you. You've likely lived through loss, letting go, reinvention, and yet, somehow, you keep rising stronger. But here's the shadow. The same depth that gives you power can also isolate you. You might feel misunderstood, heavy, tired of holding emotions others won't touch. You may wrestle with darkness, not because you're broken, but because you're brave enough to look at what others avoid. So your path is this. Let transformation be sacred, but don't let it swallow you. You are not here to suffer. You are here to alchemize, to take the pain and turn it into light, to walk others through their darkness, because you've already been there. Now December, the last page of the calendar, but also the first breath of what's next. Jung linked December to the archetype of the wise teacher, or the visionary sage. If you were born in December, there may be a timelessness about you. You carry both youth and age, optimism and realism, dream and discipline. You may love ideas, philosophy, spirituality. You see the big picture, sometimes too clearly. You want truth, but also hope. You want growth, but also freedom. And at your best, you guide others, not by telling them what to do, but by walking your own path with integrity. But your shadow, you might float too high, get lost in thought, Overlook the beauty of now because you're dreaming of someday. You may become disillusioned when life doesn't match your ideals, or retreat into ideas instead of emotion. Sow your work. Bring your wisdom down to earth. Don't just speak it, live it, embody it. The sage isn't just a thinker, they're a builder of meaning, a bridge between what is and what could be. November, December, the deep divers, the truth seekers, the ones who end the year not by stopping, but by turning inward. If you were born in these months, you carry the soul of transformation and insight. You know life is more than what we see, and you feel called, maybe quietly, maybe loudly, to remind others of that. But remember, even wisdom needs warmth, even depth needs rest. You don't have to carry it all alone. If you saw a part of yourself in this, leave a comment with your month, or tag someone who walks through life with depth and vision. And now, we've reached the final part of our journey, not to end it, but to reflect on what we've discovered. Because the truth is, your birth month is not your limit, it's your mirror, and what you choose to do with it is entirely up to you. So now you've walked through every month, every archetype, every whisper of time's symbolic voice, and maybe something surprised you. Maybe a sentence lit up like a memory. Maybe a pattern you've lived for years finally made sense. But let's be clear, your birth month is not your definition, it's your reflection. Jung never meant for archetypes to trap us. He saw them as mirrors, tools for awareness, not cages of identity. Because you are not a list of traits, you are not a season, you are a soul in motion. And these archetypes, they were just stories, ancient patterns woven into time that help you name what's already alive inside you. Maybe you saw yourself in more than 1 month. That's okay. Life isn't linear. Growth isn't clean. You carry multitudes, and every year you change. But sometimes, understanding where your story began helps you shape where it's going. So ask yourself, what part of your archetype have you embraced? What part have you rejected or forgotten or feared? What would it look like to integrate it? Not as a label, but as a companion on your journey. Maybe your quiet has power. Maybe your fire needs softness. Maybe your logic needs art. Maybe your depth needs rest. Whatever you found in this journey, let it be a starting point, not an ending. Because the deeper truth is this: you were never meant to fit into a personality. You were meant to unfold into your wholeness. That's what Jung called individuation, the slow, conscious, sacred work of becoming more fully yourself. And if this exploration helped you name something real, something long felt but never spoken, then it's already done its job. Let your birth month be a doorway, not a box, a mirror, not a mask. And above all, let your story be yours. You're not too late, you're not too broken, you're not behind, you are right on time. In the rhythm of your life, in the season of your soul, everything is unfolding exactly as it should.